You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, and we're trucking the truth across America. Joining us now, Congressman, 9th District, that is the Southwest Virginia area from Salem, Republican Congressman Morgan Griffith. Congressman, great to have you.
Good to be with you this morning. I hope my signal stays strong. I'm headed out to Dickinson County, which for folks who don't know geography of Virginia is way out there on the border, but it's not the end of the district, but it's about 2.5 hours from Roanoke, south and west. You
are always engaging with your constituents. That's why you're so popular, and you keep getting reelected, Congressman. Okay, so we're having the impeachment inquiry. Now, with this inquiry, your speaker, who is all-powerful, and the way your system runs, the speaker's the dictator, the Republican ranking members did not get subpoena opportunity, so they can't subpoena any of their own witnesses. Is that fair?
Well, it's certainly not fair, but the whole system needs to be shaken up because the speaker, even when it was a Republican speaker, has way too much power, and the committees are relegated to doing a lot of the work, but then the speaker doesn't like that work. The speaker can just change it before it gets to the floor of the House, which you see, unfortunately, way too often. Drug pricing, the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, on which I served, passed some bills. They got hijacked. Then we were working on some additional bipartisan bills that would have been good for people, and Nancy Pelosi came out with her own bill, which leans way too far to socialism.
All right, so we're having this inquiry. So let's break this down. Number one, I've had several pretty high-profile guests on from Washington, D.C. this week, Congressman, all of them telling me the president is going to get impeached in the House. Do you share that view?
Well, I think that's probably true because the Democrats have worked up their base so much that most of the Democrats now feel like they might face a primary challenge if they don't impeach the president. Now, do I think that there is evidence for impeachment? No, I don't. But I think politically that Nancy Pelosi and the squad and others have painted themselves into a corner, and their base is going to demand before the primaries that there be a vote on impeachment. Now, that really puts some of the Virginia Democrats into a tight spot. I think that they thought that this Ukraine exchange was going to be a big winner. It isn't. If anything, it has severely damaged and will continue to damage the hopes of Joe Biden. But the bottom line is that there's no good reason for impeachment, but I do believe that before the end of the year we will have a vote on impeachment and it will pass. They will give certain people, probably Spanberger, an opportunity to take a walk because they have a few votes they can give away. But I think they're going to vote and they will impeach the president. That's my guess.
Well, one of the problems is if she doesn't vote for impeachment, she'll be challenged by the left. So she'll have to deal with a serious primary challenge, which I think, there's a school of thought, and I'm one of them that happen to believe that this whole thing is driven by the fact that Democrats, senior Democrats in safe blue districts are petrified of being primaried by what I'm going to call the justice wing, who has money, they have funding, they get good candidates, they outwork their establishment people in the Democratic Party, and they put the fear of God in them. I mean, look at Dick Saslow, who was about to be the majority leader because the Republicans are not going to win the state Senate. If there hadn't been a third party candidate in that race, he loses. And he's been there for 40 years. So, and he's a progressive, not liberal enough. Is there any truth at all to that?
Well, I think it's absolutely true. Obviously, I'm not going to name names, but I have heard some of my colleagues talking about it on the floor, about how they're coming after some of the established Democrats, and there's no question they are very concerned about that socialist wing of their party, taking out a lot of they're all liberals, don't get me wrong, but taking out, there's a couple of moderates, but about 2 or 3 at most. But they're worried about being taken out by the socialist wing of the Democrat Party, and that's part of why we're going to see this. They've painted themselves into a corner, and if they don't want to have the massive overthrow of the establishment in Washington, they've got no choice but to take a vote on impeachment.
Unbelievable. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're in the rosiesgaming.com studios here in Richmond. We're chatting with Congressman Morgan Griffith, Republican, 9th District in Virginia. That's the southwest red part of the state. Congressman, let's get to the people's business, right? We're dealing with impeachment. There's nothing on the conversation with the Ukraine. But before I get there, when you read the transcript, I mean, you served in the state legislature, you were in leadership. When you read the transcript of the president's conversation with Ukrainian President Zelensky, did anything jump out at that with you, honestly, where you said, wow, this is bad, or what was your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction was that this was really bad for Joe Biden because what you've got is a situation, and look, I might have used different terms or different words, but I would have done the same thing that President Trump did. We had Vice President Joe Biden do a quid pro quo, threaten the government of Ukraine that they were going to lose $1 billion in loan guarantees if they didn't fire that prosecutor within 6 hours. And the next administration coming in, President Trump's administration, absolutely had an obligation to say, you all need to investigate. Whatever you decide is fine, but you all need to investigate and just get to the truth. The ends of justice require it. Now, you know, I've spent my whole life making sure that people's rights were defended. I was a criminal defense attorney. I worked in the court system for 28 years. I've worked in the government at the state level and the federal level, trying to make sure that our laws are just and fair. We don't always get it right, but we try. What the president, in my opinion, was trying to do was to rectify, to straighten out a wrong that Joe Biden did. And bringing attention to that tape of him admitting that he threatened their government and that they then capitulated to the United States for $1 billion, that just tells you everything right there. And all the president's saying is do your investigation because, look, if his son hadn't been involved and they thought that the prosecutor was corrupt, that might be one thing. But when your son's involved, you stay away from that.
Right.
You shouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
He did. He brought disgrace to the United States. That's where the problem is. And that phone call just shows that President Trump, he didn't ask for any kind of an outcome. He didn't say, make sure they come back with an indictment. He didn't say any of that. What he said was, y'all need to investigate. He was releasing the Ukrainian government from a prior intimidated action. And I think it was absolutely just and proper.
So, Congressman, you're on the record as saying that had you been president, you would have done the same thing in that phone call, maybe used different verbiage because you have a different speaking style. And Trump's is quite unique. Like what I've said when he said, do me a favor. Look, I'm from the New York area. That's part of your vernacular. It's like, hey, do me a favor. Can you get me that Scotch tape over there? I mean, it's just like, hey, do me a favor. It's not the way it sounds when you're from the Northeast. I mean, he's got to, that's just a reality of it, right? You'll say, do me a favor. I mean, I'll say to my son, hey, do me a favor. Would you toss me over a water? I mean, it's just not like a quid pro quo type of thing, right? It's part of the vernacular. So I get that. Let's get to the people's business, right? Now we're doing impeachment. Nothing is happening. Where are we with USMCA? You've got constituents that would benefit from this trade deal, farmers, timber people, others in your district. Where is it? Not on the floor, not being debated. What's the deal?
Well, it's in Nancy Pelosi's pocketbook, and until she decides to release it, it's not going to come to the floor. That's the power of the speaker. And the reality is that many of the folks, and I would have to agree with them, who have looked at this, say that should it get to the floor, it will pass. I don't know why they're not bringing it to the floor unless it's just for political reasons and they don't want the president to have a win. There's a couple of ways that the president gets a win out of this. Not only does the economy of the United States get even better. But as a part of this, there will be a lot of money transferring back and forth across the border. That's right. Indirectly, the Mexicans will be paying for the wall.
Unbelievable. So that just stalls. That would help people. Let's get to surprise billing. So surprise billing, I just got one. I was talking about this the other day. I got one a few months ago. Surprise billing happens when patients are just hit with an out-of-network medical cost that aren't covered by their insurance, that they know nothing about, and it just shows up in their mailbox, and all of a sudden they owe thousands of dollars that they have to pay, and if they can't pay it, the company gets a judgment, and they garnish their wages. This is happening all over America. And the root cause of surprise billing, in my judgment, looking at this, lies with the insurance companies. Denied coverage, high deductible plans, narrow networks, all of these leading to the surprise billing. And now you've got a bill in there, and insurance companies want a law that's going to protect them and not patients. Where are we with that now? What bill is going to formulate up? Are insurance companies going to get bailed out? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know where we end up. We had a bill that came out on a bipartisan matter out of the Energy and Commerce Committee, because people don't realize that health care includes insurance, and that's part of the commerce wing of Energy and Commerce, and I serve on the health subcommittee. And we had a bill that came out. We worked on it hard. It wasn't perfect, but we got some things in there that we thought were appropriate. I can't tell you where that is today. The Senate doesn't completely agree, but it was amazing that we suddenly got a huge amount of pushback from a lot of different companies on that bill, arguing that the way we did it wasn't the best. I'm not going to tell you that it couldn't be improved, but I will tell you that what we passed would have made a big difference for the people of Virginia and the people of the United States. And we're still waiting for that process to work out. I can't put this one all at the feet of the Speaker because we do have a competing bill in the Senate and some different ideas over there. And so this one is working its way through, but I haven't seen any direct political stoppage of it. I think it's just a normal trying to work things out between the houses. We'll see. I may be wrong. It may be political, but right now I think it's more just the process in D.C. is so slow. It's one of the advantages in Virginia. You have a part-time legislature, and either you get it done or you don't. And it's amazing how much faster you can reach a compromise when you know your deadline is just a week away.
Well, let me just tell you this. I've seen polls, and Trump's base and swing state voters are not in favor of the surprise medical bill legislation because when they see that any of the most first pass details at it, it's basically bailing out insurance companies. That's all this is. And so when I looked at polling from the Trump campaign, they're warning that swing state voters oppose this bipartisan bill that's meant to protect patients from surprise medical bills when they receive it, because basically it's just shifting it and protecting the insurance company. So, I mean, I'm interested in something that's going to protect patients, not big insurance. I'm tired of them getting bailed out, Morgan.
Yeah, I don't want to bail out the insurance companies either. And right now what they've done is they've created a lack of a better term, a Byzantine maze of trying to figure out whether or not you are covered or you're not covered. And we need across the board in so many different areas in our healthcare field, we need transparency, and we need everybody to see. You walk up to, an urgent care or an emergency room or a hospital, you need to know if your insurance is going to cover. And the fact that you can't find that out with a few clicks on a computer is absolutely outrageous. And that's where we need to make sure that we have this going, is where people can know that they're not going to get a surprise bill down the road, that if they're going to a particular facility, that it may cost them $200, or if they're going to another facility, it may cost them $12,000. But trying to figure that out when you're sick or you're hurt is not something that the patient ought to be responsible for.
Right.
It ought to be the insurance companies pick it up. Now, if it's elective surgery, I would give them a little more latitude because
Right.
it's elective.
Right.
But if you're sick or you're injured, you should not have to worry about whether or not the insurance that you're paying an arm and a leg for is going to cover because you're at the wrong medical facility.
Right. Well, Congressman, in my view, and you know kind of where I stand on some of these issues, but to me, any legislation that is going to deal with surprise billing, which is a real problem now in America, must remove, I think, the patients from the process of resolving disputes between insurance companies and doctors. Like, I'm the patient. I don't want to be involved in that dispute. That's their dispute. And so to me, I would rather see an independent third-party system that should resolve these disputes. And I just don't want to be blindsided. And again, I've told this story on the air. I had a colonoscopy, simple thing. I had coverage for that with my insurance. And there were several polyps. I was not covered for that. I didn't know it. And you have to have them removed. Then you have to have them examined, and it comes back fine. And I'm like, great. And so I figured, okay, it's going to cost me the deductible. You know, I get a bill for $5,700. Well, I don't have $5,700 lying around, right? I just don't have it. So then, right. You know, I have to negotiate it, and then they're not satisfied with the negotiation. Then I get something in the mail. I have to show up in Newport News, and they're slapping a judgment on me, and they're going to garnish my wages. And all I did was go in and have a procedure, and I didn't know anything about this. I'm a living example of what people are going through. And so this is one of the issues that I think you guys should really be working on. Instead, you got the Democrats in there giving subpoenas out to Pompeo and Giuliani. And a simple thing like this, they can't get together and fix on the behalf of constituents. I mean, it's outrageous.
And it is outrageous, and we ought to be able to fix it. What makes it even worse is that those polyps could be dangerous to you, and the way the insurance companies currently have it set up in that Byzantine maze I was talking about is you're supposed to come out of that. They go, oh, you have polyps, and then go have surgery at a hospital that's approved by your insurance company. Now, how does that make any sense?
None.
It's downright silly.
None.
To say a worse word.
None. I mean, it's
not good for the patient. It's not even good frankly, for the insurance companies. But they're figuring out a way to shift the burden off of them and onto their customers, the patient.
Exactly. Well, I know you're going to be. I know you well enough, Congressman. You're going to be fighting for people like me who just went through this the other day, and now I have to deal with a judgment. I mean, it's incredible. I just went to the doctor, right? I did what I was supposed to do. I pay my bills. I pay my insurance. And now I have to deal with this. And you turn around and you say, what the hell is going on? So, look, I've got full confidence that you and your associates there, your colleagues will be able to get a bill that makes sense. Certainly the California bill that they're looking at has been a total disaster. So hopefully we can get a better one than that. Congressman, I'm out of time. Thank you for being with us. Congressman Morgan Griffith, Southwest Virginia, 9th District Republican. Congressman, thanks for being with us, sir.
Thank you.